Hi everyone, welcome to Basic Bit. The problem today is called check if all ones are at least length k places away. So we're given an array of numbers containing zeros and ones, and also an integer k. We return true if all the ones are at least k places away from each other. Otherwise, we return false. Let's walk through these two examples. In the first example, we have an array of zeros and ones. In order to make sure that all the ones in this array are at least k places away from each other, we have to know the index of where the ones are. So let's write out the index of each of these numbers. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to have an array ones to store the index where there's a 1 in the array. So at index 0, we have a 1, also at index 4 and index 7. Now that we have the indices, in order to get the space between each of the ones, we take the difference of the index and also subtract 1. So 4 minus 0 is 4, minus 1 is 3. 7 minus 4 is 3, minus 1 is 2. So here we get the distance of 3 and the distance of 2. The last thing we have to do is to make sure that all of the values in this distance array is going to be at least greater than or equal to k equal to 2. So 3 and 2 are both greater than or equal to 2, and that's why the output is true. Let's quickly go through the second example. So we can identify that the index where the ones are at index 0. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, index 3, 3, 4, 5, and finally index 5. And the distance between those ones, we have 3 minus 0 is 3, minus 1 is 2, and 5 minus 3 is 2, minus 1 is 1. And we compare these differences against k is equal to 2. The first difference, 2, is equal to k. However, the second difference, 1, is less than 2. This means that these two ones only have a distance of 1, which is less than 2. So the ones are not far apart enough, so we return the answer false. Now let's code up our answer. Okay, so first we're going to want an array that contains all of the indices of nums that contains 1. So we can do a list comprehension. So in enumerates nums, and we want to keep the index. So we want to keep the index if n is equal to 1. Okay, now that we have this list of indices, we're going to want to make sure that the differences are always going to be greater than k. So for I in range length of ones, so we only have to go to length of ones minus 1 because we want to compare ones index, the ones, we're going to want to compare the index at I. So the diff is going to be the index at I plus 1 minus the index at I, and then also remember minus 1. And this diff needs to be greater than or equal to k. So if it's less than k, we can stop this loop early by returning false. Otherwise, we continue checking the next pair of indices. If we go through this whole loop and we never return false, then that means all of the differences are at least k, so we can return true. Let's run our code. Okay, that worked on this test case. We can submit, and it was accepted. So the running time for this solution, first we enumerate through nums in order to get the index where get all of the indices where there's 1. So that would be O of n. And then we iterate through all of the indices. So that would be like O of k. K would be the number of 1's in the array nums. K is going to be a lot smaller than n. So the overall time complexity is O of n.